Dr. Leo had just switched off his surgical light when the billionaire's wife blocked the hallway. She gave the chief of medicine a final ultimatum: cut the power and jeopardize every patient in the building, or force Leo to save her son first. Both sides were at a standoff when the door swung open. Leo had finished the surgery. The moment he learned the situation, he agreed to treat the boy immediately. That was when the woman swung a steel rod from behind and smashed it directly into his skull. Leo collapsed. She didn't even lower her chin. She folded her arms, tilted her head back, and swore the blood on the floor was his own fault. Said he had walked straight into it. Her best friend stood beside her, screaming curses at the doctors on their knees, desperately pressing Leo's philtrum to bring him back. She accused the man lying in a pool of his own blood of playing dead to dodge responsibility. Right then, Mr. Hartford's phone exploded in his pocket. The call from the ICU hit him like a thunderclap. His son was crashing. His eyes went bloodshot. He did not even glance at the doctor on the floor. He raised his hand and gave one wave behind him. The row of black-suited bodyguards surged forward like wolves off a chain. The hallway erupted. The guards shoved past every nurse who tried to block them. Two of them grabbed the unconscious Leo by the arms and hauled him up. The chief of medicine threw himself in the middle of the hall, arms stretched wide, voice tearing at the throat, telling them Leo had a severe concussion. Dragging him into an oar would not save anyone. It would kill another person. The man's eyes held nothing but ice. One of the guards shouldered a medic out of the way and tore open the sterile doors. They hurled Leo's limp body hard against the cold surgical table. Inside the oar, the waves on the monitor were flattening in plain sight. The little boy on the table wore a massive oxygen mask. His chest barely rose. The best friend in her red dress and high heels charged straight into the critical care zone. She spotted a nurse performing the final rounds of CPR and shoved her aside without a flicker of hesitation. The billionaire's wife was completely unglued. Her eyes landed on the blood-soaked doctor collapsed in the corner, and she lunged at him like he was her last grip on earth, and started shaking him like a madwoman. Leo's head snapped back and forth under her grip. The wound on his forehead split open again and fresh blood streamed down his face. A minute ago she had been screaming for him to die. Now she was slamming her own head against the floor, demanding a man deep in traumatic coma get up and save her son. Under the violence of her shaking, Leo actually groaned. His eyelids shuddered and cracked open a sliver. Mr. Hartford lunged forward, clamped both hands on Leo's shoulders, and started interrogating him. Leo shook off the hands trying to hold him up, his legs like wet rope, and stumbled to the instrument tray. He grabbed a glass of ice water and without warning dumped the entire thing over his own head, blood and all. The shock of the cold wrenched a violent gasp out of him. He shook the water and blood from his face, pulled on sterile gloves with mechanical precision, and took hold of the scalpel. The second he was about to make the first move, the monitor let out a single, unbroken shriek. The line on the screen had gone completely flat. The air inside the oar vanished. Leo's pupils contracted. He dropped the scalpel, stacked both hands over the boy's fragile chest, and started pumping with everything he had. Sweat and blood dripped off his forehead onto the pale hospital gown. The wife clamped both hands over her mouth, a strangled sob trapped in her throat. Under Leo's ferocious rhythm, the monitor actually flickered back to a weak, wavering pulse. The woman scrambled toward the bed. It was nothing but a final surge. The next second, the line snapped dead straight. The boy on the table lay like a broken doll. No breath, no sound. Leo staggered back half a step, his body swaying, and he shook his head in final, absolute defeat. Beside him, the chief of medicine slammed his palm against the crash cart and hurled the bloody truth straight into the parents' faces. The location where the boy had collapsed was barely a block from Leo's hospital. If they had brought him straight there, the child would almost certainly be alive right now. But these two women, for reasons no sane person could explain, had skipped the nearest ER and dragged him across half the city. Worse still, during the golden window after they finally arrived, the wife had thrown a tantrum in the lobby and beaten the only surgeon who could save her son into a severe concussion. She had personally burned over an hour of time the boy did not have. The woman stood there like she had been struck by lightning. But what came next was not guilt for killing her own flesh and blood. Her eyes filled with manic, bloodshot rage. She let out a bone-chilling scream, spun around, and snatched the surgical blade off the instrument tray. She shoved every shred of blame onto Leo. She shrieked that he would be buried with her son and drove the blade straight toward his throat. A nurse slammed into her wrist from the side. The scalpel clattered to the floor. Mr. Hartford's glasses hung crooked from the chaos. He looked at the blade that had nearly taken a life, then at the woman in front of him, his wife, who had become something monstrous and utterly without conscience. The fury in his eyes finally died. What replaced it was a cold so absolute it froze the air. He took a long breath, shook off the woman's hand clawing at him like he was shedding a piece of rotting meat, and stared down at her collapsed on the floor. He spoke the word divorce slowly, each syllable chiseled in ice. Then he turned to Leo, his head still covered in blood, and bowed deeply. He did not spare a single extra glance for the woman on the ground. He lifted the white sheet, gathered his son's stiffened body into his arms, and walked out of the oar with long, deliberate strides. Behind him, the woman clawed at her own hair on the floor, wailing into the empty room.